Hi there, my name's Ben, and I like to read. Today, we're going to be reviewing perhaps the father of all Gothic fiction, which is The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. This was written in the late 18th century by Horace Walpole, who was, of course, the brother of Britain's first Prime Minister, Sir Robert Walpole, who is also coincidentally, I believe, one of the longest serving Prime Ministers as well. That's beside the case. The Castle of Otranto set the stage and indeed laid out the groundwork for people like Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein, for Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, for what's another one that I'm terribly missing? Oh, of course, Edgar Allan Poe. All of that really dark, melancholy, sometimes tinged with the supernatural kind of fiction that became so popular in the later 19th century. This book, in and of itself, is about the Prince of Atranto, whose name is Manfred. He's trying to essentially set up his family for life through a marriage alliance with a neighboring state. It's set in the Middle Ages, of course. Now his son Conrad dies on the wedding day, but of course Manfred, being power hungry that he is, he's like, okay, I'm not going to let this die. I'm going to have to marry her. So he decides to marry his son's bride-to-be. Now, she, of course, the Isabella, who was supposed to be married to Conrad, doesn't take to this at all, decides to flee to the titular castle, where there's a bunch of weird stuff that starts happening. Some stuff paranormal, some stuff supernatural. Manfred goes in, tries to get her, and of course they get lost in the secret passages, and just some weird stuff happens altogether. Think of a Middle Ages haunted house / classic damsel in distress who doesn't want to get married to the evil dude kind of story. Sort of set the stage for that. I gotta say, it is a little bit of a difficult read, just mainly because, again, of the language that is used by Mr. Walpole. I think that it is, it's archaic, to say the least. This was written almost 300 years ago. But that being said, there is a really real creepiness to the story that the language helps to sort of foster. I think maybe it's because when I read it, I thought to myself, okay, this is probably what people back then spoke like, and of course, it's almost like there's a ghost telling me the story. If you sort of take that, if you let your imagination run with it, it will certainly pay dividends that way. I think with regards to the overall length of the book, it's, very, very short. It's a novella, if anything. With introduction and appendix, it's less than I think it's like 130 pages. So, and again, 15 of those last pages are just little footnotes. The introduction by Nick Groom is fantastic. It also delves into not just the context, but a lot of the interpretations of the book itself. So I think that, again, don't skip out on it. You've probably heard me say it before, but if you don't skip out on the introduction, you've got to read it, because it will help make the reading experience a lot better. When I first started reading books, I was like, I don't need to read this. This is ridiculous. I'll make up my own mind. But I found myself more often than not getting the maximum from the book, unless I read the introduction, of course. Now, given that, of course, it's a very specific type of literature, if you're not into, that sort of ghostly, supernatural stuff, it may not be the one for you. Like I said, it's relatively short. Although that being said, of around 100 pages of story, it does feel a little bit longer just because of the formatting, just because of the language that's being used and the way that they spoke. That being said, it does fit in with the overall aesthetic, like I said before. My opinion, it's a worthwhile read. It's not the best book that I've read. I will say that, if you want to appreciate where the sort of, this is the first modern horror novel as well, which set the groundwork for Frankenstein, for Dracula, for all of this, for Wuthering Heights, for Jane Eyre by the Bronte sisters. Again, definitely read it. It will sort of, as soon as you read it, and if you've read those other books, you'll think, aha, there's going to be a light bulb moment. You're going to say, okay, now I sort of understand where they're getting it all from. So on that merit alone, I think it definitely deserves a read. That being said, it's kind of, this one is more along the lines of if you're really, really into it, definitely go read it. If not, you can skip it. That being said, let me know what you think about it. And it's definitely an interesting read. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.